Hello, welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at creating an array of asteroids that will fall down the screen. So before we get started, it'd be a great idea to go ahead and take a look at what we've already created. So inside the test project, you've got test, and come on down, you've got core. Under core, we've got assets, and under assets is where we're storing our images for the asteroid and for the ship. Under SRC is our source. Under com.test, we have our classes, asteroid, ship, and the game itself. Asteroid, if you remember, is the asteroid class that we created. So under the asteroid class, we have a texture that represents the image for the asteroid class, the blown up image, the hitbox, the asteroid's X, Y, width, and height. And when we created the asteroid, we had several objects inside of it. So we had, not objects, excuse me, several attributes of our asteroid. So we had the texture that represented the asteroid, the image that represents the blown up image, its X, its Y, its width, its height, which we defined up here, and also its hitbox. Now if you remember, the hitbox is what surrounds the asteroid, and it's what we're using to find out if two rectangles overlap. That will show us a collision between two rectangles in this case. Then we have the ability to move the asteroid, so that's how we say this dot asteroid equals asteroid y minus 2, so the asteroid in this case is moving down 2. We can do asteroid hitbox at position asteroid x and asteroid y, so what this does is it moves the asteroid and adjusts the hitbox of the asteroid after it moves it. Then we have a method for checking the collision. We have a texture for getting the asteroid image. We have a method for setting the image, getting the blown up image, and setting the blown up image. And then we just have several other getters and setters for the other attributes of our class. So under ship, very similar to the ship, or the asteroid, the ship is, for the most part, pretty similar to the blown up image. We haven't really messed around with the blown up images, remember? We just kind of change it from one thing to the next. So in this case, we were turning the ship into an asteroid. We'll mess with that later. For right now, we had also underneath the ship how it was going to be moved, checking collision, getting the ship's image, setting the ship's image, etc., etc., etc. So then under test game is where we have the logic for kind of telling us what we're going to be doing with the asteroid and the ship objects. So we have a sprite batch, which is a batch. So we have ship equals my ship, and we have asteroid, which is first asteroid. This is actually the first thing we're going to want to change. We're going to create an asteroid array, or rather an array of asteroids. So if you remember to do that, let's go ahead and grab our array class we created last time. So here we had a game console. We had a class that represented the game console. Under our main program, we created an array of game consoles. So scroll on down just a little bit. Here we are. Well, in this case, we did zoo animals up there. Let's go down to where we created an array of game consoles. There we go. So we give the name of the object, game console, or of the class, and we say my consoles is a name that's going to point to an array of game consoles. And here we created a new console. In this case, we're creating new console 3. So we're saying it's going to be an array of size 3. And below, we gave the necessary attributes for each one of the consoles. So, or rather, we constructed 3 objects or 3 consoles that are inside of the game console array. So it's an array of objects. We're going to do something very similar when we create an array of asteroids. In this case, we're going to create an asteroid array that is size 5. So in this case, we're going to say asteroid open close. So they're saying we're creating an array of asteroids. And here we're going to change the name. We're going to say asteroid array. So our asteroid right here is an array of asteroids. Now immediately we break something. We have our first asteroid. So when we create this, we're actually going to initiate all of the asteroids that we're going to want to create. So we need to set the size of the asteroid array, and then we need to initialize or create the objects for each one of those asteroids. So we got to ask ourselves, how many asteroids do we want, and where do we want them to be placed on the screen, and maybe even how fast do we want those asteroids to move. So I want you to be thinking about those and pause the video thinking about a game. So you got a game, you're going to want to blow up some asteroids. Where do you want the asteroids? How do you want the asteroids to move? Do they all move the same speed? What do you do when an asteroid exits the screen? Does it just pop up back on the screen somewhere else, or do you need to create a brand new asteroid object? So these are the questions you'd want to ask yourself as you're creating the game. Again, pause the video, think about those questions, and then you can see my attempt or my approach to working out the asteroid array inside this video here. Alright, so thinking about the game, I kind of want to keep this pretty simple because the whole point of this exercise is just to mess around with arrays, having a reason to use arrays in our program. And it actually is pretty convenient because they work really well for what we want. So the way I envision it or whatever is you've got several lanes, and in the lanes, so these aren't actually going to be drawn on the screen. We're just kind of imagining that their screen is divided into chunks, and inside of each chunk going vertically, or each lane, what we have is we have somewhere an asteroid can fall. So this asteroid will be falling here, this asteroid will be falling here, and so on and so forth. So how many asteroids, or how many lanes rather, would we want across our screen? Well, how many asteroids can fit side to side all the way along the screen so that the asteroids don't overlap? Because we haven't really dealt with overlapping asteroids before, and I kind of want to leave that out of the game for right now. Like, can asteroids overlap, or do they bounce off each other? We could work that out. There's a whole physics engine you can use inside of libgdx, but again, for right now, we're going to keep it really simple. We're going to make sure our asteroids never intersect each other, and that they're always completely separated. So to do that, we need to know how wide our screen is and how wide each asteroid is. And then we'll take the screen width divided by the asteroid width, and that'll give us the maximum number of asteroids we can fit side to side across the screen. So let's go and do that. Let's go back and figure out again how wide our asteroids are. So we come here. If you remember, we created the hitbox and the asteroid based on the width of the image of the asteroid. And here we had 32 by 32. So it's 32 pixels wide, 32 pixels tall. To find out how tall and how wide our game screen is, we need to go to Desktop, Source, open up com.desktop and the desktop launcher. And here it's actually going to tell us our height and our width. Now our width is 640. 640 divided by 32 should give us a total of 20. Check my math, just did that in my head, but should give us a total of 20 asteroids. That is a lot of asteroids to be throwing down the screen. But could make the game a little bit more interesting, so tell you what, why don't we make that a little, I kind of like having 20. I just have no idea how difficult that's going to make the game. What do you think? It's your game, you're going to get a chance to mess around with this here in a little bit too. But for my purposes, what the hey? Why don't we just go ahead and make it a width, or rather an array that has 20 asteroids in it. So here we say, hey, I've got an asteroid array that points to an asteroid array, and we want to tell it how large the array is going to be. So if we pop back on over, just referring back to what we did in the past, remember we said game console, my consoles, is equal to a new game console array of size 3. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. We're going to say is equal to a new asteroid array of size 20. So we should now have an empty array of 20 asteroids. Now we haven't actually created these asteroid objects yet, but I want you to think for a second. 20 asteroids. Could you imagine having to write out this one line of code right here 20 times? Especially since most of the code's going to be used over and over and over again. If only there was a better way to loop through 20 asteroids, giving them all similar characteristics based on where they're inside of that loop. That's what we did last time. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we did last time with our arrays. We created a for loop. Yep, here we are. We created a for loop, which allowed us to loop through all the objects of an array. Now we did not create a for loop that allowed us to create an array. So I want you to stop and think, pause the video again. How would you create a for loop to loop through 20 items and initialize 20 different asteroids. So that's your challenge for today. This is actually not going to be for a grade because we're going to do that in the very next video. I'm going to show you a solution, a possible solution for creating a loop and creating or initializing 20 different asteroids that are going to be each in their own specific lane. So it's a bit of a challenge. I hope you look forward to it. I look forward to seeing what you're going to create inside of your own projects. And again, in the next video, we're going to show you how you could possibly work this out. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.